to order the regular meeting of the Board of Education for Wednesday, September 25th. Looking around the room, I see that all board members are present and accounted for, in addition to our student board member. And I don't believe we received any requests for public comment on closed session items. So with that, I will go ahead and call for a motion to adjourn the closed session. And in tonight's closed session, we will discuss personnel matters, accomplish legal counsel with regard to an existing litigation issue, and labor negotiations with each of the bargaining units, including management to staff. May I have a motion and second, please?
Second.
We have a motion from member Nolenberg and a second from member Lynn. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. That might just work good tonight. Motion from member Nolenberg. Thank you. So we have a motion from member Nolenberg, a second from member Lynn. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, the motion carries 5-0. We're back in open session. Next item on our agenda, or first item, is that we are being announcement that we are being digitally recorded. And with that, we will move on to our pledge, which will be led by me tonight. So please rise. Place your hand over your heart. And ready to begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Moving on with regard to announcements of action taken in closed session, I do have two announcements to make. In closed session, on a motion by member Lennon and a second by member Nolenberg, and a 5-0 unanimous vote, the board took action to approve/ratify a settlement agreement and general release between the district and parents on behalf of the district special education student, pursuant to which the district has agreed to provide the student with specialized instruction and placement in a special day class with an inclusion specialist, as well as to provide reimbursement to the student's parents for incurred attorney's fees, subject to proof up to $100,000. The student's parents have consented to the educational services to be provided, and in exchange have dismissed and released pending claims against the district in OAH case number 201905089 in the United States District Court. Okay, and moving on to the second action we took. This was on a motion of member Lennon and a second by member Espinoza, also on a 5-0 unanimous vote. The board took action to accept the resignation of employee number QG3416956 pursuant to the terms of the resignation agreement and general release. Under the terms of the agreement, the employee executed a general waiver and release of claims and is resigned effective December 16, 2019. In exchange, pending dismissal charges against the employee were suspended and revoked, and the employee has been permitted to remain on paid leave up to the effective date of resignation. So that's the actions we took in closed session. So with that, we are going to move on to special presentation, which will be a recap of the state of the district that we had last Wednesday at the high school.
Perfect. So at the pool dedication, last week we actually went through a state of the district address where we wanted to give a general overview of what happened last year and where we're going to be going this year in terms of initiatives and projects and things of relative importance across the district. So as they get the PowerPoint queued up, I did want to start with just some acknowledgments of all of the accomplishments of our schools over the past year. The Douglas Sears Learning Center did earn a 6-year accreditation, so that was a big accomplishment for them. I also wanted to congratulate Temple City High School. We were honored as a California Distinguished School, and they were also honored with the CTE Exemplary School Award. Both of those accomplishments are really tremendous and outstanding, and we congratulate all of those folks at Temple City High School that made that happen. In addition, over at Oak, they took second place in the regionals at the competition for the Science Olympiad, so their Science Olympiad team did tremendously well. Also at Oak, they had a superior rating for their orchestra and their combined bands in the Sabota Festival. And then finally over in Cloverly and La Rosa Elementary School, they had an Educational Results Partnership Honor Roll School, so they were mentioned there. And finally, back at Oak Avenue Intermediate, the auxiliaries band, a sweepstakes award, gave a first place for their band. So all of those accomplishments across the district really showcased our students, and we just wanted to make sure that we show our appreciation for all the hard work of the students and the parents and our faculty and staff that made those accomplishments possible across the district. So thank you very much for that. Throughout the 2018-19 school year, when I came on board with the district at the end of January, it has been quite a tour of listening and learning and understanding our programs, understanding our students, understanding our climate and our culture. So it's been a privilege getting to know all that makes up Temple City Unified School District. We wanted to take a close look at our program inventory, just to understand the needs associated with our programs, the accomplishments of our programs, and then how they all fit in unison together, and how we can be supported in that effort. And then we also wanted to go and make sure that we did a needs assessment to understand the critical needs of our students and our faculty and our staff, the programs that we have across the district, as well as the curriculum and our technology, and to see where we would need to move and where we need to go and have forward work, building on all of the work that has been done throughout the years by our administrators prior to us. From that, gathering all that information, we really wanted to bring back information to the Board of Education so that we can look at goals and priorities moving forward. And to do that, we also have to have a deep dive or look into our budget and make sure that the budget component is riding along with our program component. So those are the things that we've worked on in the spring of last year. Things that we would want to do moving. Things that we want to do moving forward. There's like I'm paging forward. We want to look more at our academic programs and understand the support that they need and the student supports that they need, whether it be interventions or curriculum. We want to understand what that looks like so that we can keep our academic offerings as high as possible. In addition, we are looking at safety concerns for our sites, our students, our staff, and our community, and we really want to put in plans that bring those elements together, providing drills and preparedness so that everyone, should a situation occur, we would be well poised to handle those situations. Again, district technology and developing a district technology plan is something that is high on our priority list, making sure that our students have access to devices and instructional technology so that they can be prepared in the world beyond Temple City Unified School borders, and they can achieve their goals and dreams. And then looking at the health and wellness of both our students and staff becomes a real important factor for us. We know that having a healthy staff and healthy students makes learning possible and achievement high in our district, so that is a signature priority for us. Again, fiscal review and priority setting, that is something that is ongoing work that we do with the Board of Education and with the district office and school sites. And then finally solidifying those Board of Education goals and then setting those priorities through the governance structures that we have. So those are the initiatives that we have or we are looking at moving forward into this next school year. So looking forward, looking backwards, just to recap on where we were, just as a brief overview of our dashboard. Our dashboard is the rating system or scale that districts are measured by currently. You can see that in most areas, suspension rate, graduation rate, college to career readiness, English language arts, and mathematics, we score either in the green area or the blue area. This is the top end of that dashboard band, meaning very positive. If you would go over towards the red area, those would be things that you would want to be working on and items that you would want to consider for improvement. The one area where we are in the yellow, which is our lowest indicator mark, is in the area of chronic absenteeism. So we do want to make sure that we're making every effort to provide access for our students to come and attend school in their home school location. And if there's situations where we need to provide intervention, we want to make sure that we do that to help those youngsters attend school. And looking forward, I want to hand over the microphone to Business Services, and they are going to go department by department and just kind of give an overview on the accomplishments and then the next steps that they will be undertaking throughout the school year.
Thank you. So for 18-19, we continued our focus on zero-based budgeting to prevent deficit spending, and compliance with state and federal guidelines so we can continue to have positive audits as we have in the past. As we increase statutory expenses such as PERS, STRS, and payroll taxes, we need to continue to look at the budget to make sure we stay positive. Our major initiatives for 1920 are establishing a budget committee. We have our first meeting in early October where we'll go through the budget in detail and I'm sure answer a lot of questions. The second item is we're trying to increase opportunities to bring additional revenue into the district through enterprise funds. Some examples of things that we're studying are preschool, a capital campaign, and adult education. For food services accomplishments for this past year are enhanced school site menus, and we're partnering with local vendors to provide a nice variety of meals, especially at the high school and the middle school. And we're continuing to be in compliance with state and federal guidelines related to the national school program. We were not in compliance a couple years ago, so the team's done a very nice effort and worked very hard to get us into compliance. For our major initiatives going forward, we're working on establishing a vending program, and we're doing research and looking into a student breakfast program that would be at all sites, and continuing professional development to ensure compliance primarily in the safety and compliance with the national school program. So in maintenance and operations, our major accomplishments, big projects that we did this past year was a schedule of roof repair and maintenance. We just finished the 300 wing at the high school and resurfacing the sports courts and sports fields at Oak Avenue and the high school. Going forward, we are going to be working on an update to the master plan and facility safety guidelines. We're also going to be standardizing our project priority list. What we did last year is we went out to the sites January, February, and asked them to give us a list of everything they'd like for their school. We prioritized them across the district between what had the greatest need and what dollars were available to spend. We're continuing our rekeying of all the sites. We're about 60% finished with that. That will improve security. And we are doing playground inspections. We have 3 staff members that are now certified to do playground inspections. And we're continuing to maintain pristine campuses across the district. I'm sorry, I went to the wrong slide in my notes. So bond accomplishments, will actually be having a separate presentation for you in a few minutes at the end of this presentation. And bond initiatives moving forward are developing a plan for the remaining Measure S bonds. And also we'll be getting some state bonds, so it'll be prioritizing projects across the district for those 2 sources of revenue. And we want to do a proposal to ensure that we have equity as projects are requested across the district. Thank you.
Thanks, Brandon. Recently in Ed Services last year, we were proud to say that they adopted the Tcusd English Language Arts Adoption Wonders by McGraw-Hill publication. That is in full swing right now. With little hiccups here and there, we're working closely with staff to make sure they have all the resources they need and things are working as smoothly as they can. These programs are compliant with state requirements, aligned with the California state standards, and incorporate all newer instructional technologies. Major initiatives moving forward. Right now we're focused in working with our English Language Arts departments at the secondary level, 7 through 12. We're working with department chairs and a few of their teachers to pilot Study Sync by McGraw-Hill and My Perspectives by Pearson's. My Perspective is currently on display behind us in the board display case, if anyone's interested in viewing it. And will be on display through December. In the second semester, they'll be working on Study Sync. Recently, earlier this year, I worked with the department chairs in mathematics to review a potential pilot in the upcoming years, as it was something that was discussed being on schedule. But with the new framework coming out in 2021, it would put us significantly before an adoption before the new framework would be developed and new materials would be ready. So they agreed to postpone that up until that point so we can review the materials when they come. On the student services side, there's been a focus on the health and well-being of the whole student. Educational focus was on personal connection. Last year, the elementary schools participated in positive behavior support training. Year 1, this is building upon some of the programs that are already existing in a lot of the schools, and kind of just more creating a formalized, systematic approach across the district. And we have full-time counselors at every one of the elementary sites. Then we added another counselor too long due to its enrollment size. Moving forward, we're looking to develop a district health and wellness plan for our students and staff. This is a collaborative effort amongst all to kind of build that together. Suicide prevention training, referrals and support. This is in compliance with Assembly Bill 2246. The elementary schools have already signed up and began their participation with the positive behavior support training with the Los Angeles County Office of Education. This will be year 2 of PBIS and building their programs. The intermediate and high schools academic, behavioral, social, emotional needs, building MTSS support. These are multi-tiered systems of support. This is going to help build upon the already existing interventions for students to help tier things out, to provide additional supports, not just academically, but also social, emotional as well. And then taking the district initiative and focus on kindness. In the area of college and career readiness, it's always great to hear about our accomplishments. So the California Exemplary Career Technical Education Program Award was given to Dr. Dexier's Learning Center. One of the neat things about that is only 9 schools, I believe, are recipients of that award in the state of California last year. We also established a partnership with the Pasadena City College through the dual enrollment class. Moving forward, we're looking at maintaining college and career readiness pathways, increase adult education courses for our community members. I do apologize for that typo. In the area of special education, our district program, last year we were notified of being program in review. The staff, it's in regard to the level of our special education students that are included in the general education setting. Last year we did meet our goal and review goal set by the state for the inclusion of students in the general education setting. The impact of that impacted about 35 students total district-wide. And so we sent notification out to the district, or our staff today. We had some support from our union representatives on how to communicate that out, and I really appreciate their feedback on the needs of our staff. Major initiatives moving forward, we're looking to standardize processes for special education services, review special education budget programs and services along. And lastly, with regards to technology, up to last year, they've established a strong infrastructure and Wi-Fi at all facilities. While we're still working through some of the kinks, we believe that the backbone of the network is there and ready to deliver the service. Completed technology inventory at all site for all the devices at the site, specifically student devices. And we brought on an asset tagging system so that we can keep track of all the student devices that are by the district throughout the use of the classrooms. In addition to that, there were some network upgrades across the district that were needed, that were put into place, different switches to repair some of the old and maintain the new equipment that we put in. Moving forward, the goal here is to develop a district technology instructional standard, something that's continued or something that we use throughout all the classrooms, grade level across the grade levels. But more importantly, working collaboratively with our stakeholders, our union representatives, committee members to develop a comprehensive district-wide technology plan that would create that'll help meet the future needs and be sustainable. And that's it.
For personnel services, our accomplishments and celebrations are our Tcusd Teacher of the Year, Cindy Young. We just celebrated her last Friday at the LACO Teacher of the Year luncheon. It was a beautiful ceremony. We got to meet her family and friends. So that was last Friday. And our Tcusd Classified of the Year is Gail Schaefer. She's a one-woman rock star at Temple City High School running that ASB room. And our last accomplishment and celebration for this year is the standardization of the hiring process. Right now, we are in our second wave of search for the Longdon Elementary School principal, and we hope to conclude that in the next few weeks. I would like to thank the interview team from the unions and from Longdon Elementary for being patient and supportive in the process, and we hope to fill that position soon. Major initiatives moving forward: enhanced district-wide communication procedures. We are branding and marketing our signature programs. We are establishing our website and social media blueprint. Hannah Getty is leading the charge on that. So we would like to thank her for all the efforts that she has put in with Marie to update our websites. Our next thing is recruit, hire, train, and retain the top talent for every position. We have forums for community input coming out. We have one November 20th and one for February 19th that we will advertise in the next couple of months. And then we plan to improve personnel policies and procedures, develop employee handbooks, provide ongoing training and professional development for employees, including updating our ASOP system, which is now called Frontline. It's not only helps with attendance, it helps the employee track how many sick days, how many PD days if we choose that feature. So we look forward to training our employees for that in the future. We are continuing the valuable program that we have with the San Gabriel Valley Consortium for our teacher induction. And we are implementing a new administrator evaluation process.
And that is it on the personnel end.
Thank you. And less sound.
Now we're gonna have a recap of the bond proposal and the refinance of the bond proposals.
Good evening, my name is Tarana Alam. I'm the Key Analytics, and I'll be happy to provide you with an update regarding the Measure S general obligation bonds. In November of 2012, the voters of the Temple City Unified School District approved the $128.8 million general obligation bonds by over 60% voters approving that measure. The bond authorized improvements to the district's school facilities, as well as technology, security improvements, and other district-wide projects. The taxpayers also set a maximum tax rate of $60 per 100,000 of assessed value. However, the district made a further commitment and reduced that to a $58.8 tax rate per 100,000. To date, the district has issued 2 bond series in the amount of $39.9 million and $33.4 million for a total of $73.4 million that it's been using to fund a number of its major school projects district-wide. There's $55.3 million of authorization remaining. And part of the reason for that is because of changes to the law, to the term of the GO bonds and so forth, which limits that authorization, but it is still available, and when the assessed value grows, the district can access those funds. The bar chart on the right-hand side highlight the revenue that's been generated to date to $75.6 million, and $69 million worth of projects have been completed district-wide to date, with the remaining amount of $6.6 million as of September 3rd, and those funds are dedicated for the projects that will be completed between now and December. So some improvements were made in almost all of the district school campuses, and I will kind of highlight some of the major improvements, mostly at the elementary schools and at the high school. So at Cloverly, one of the major projects was the improvements to new administration offices and a new layout to that facility, as well as new staff restrooms. However, in all of the elementary schools, they were taken down to the studs, and there were improvements made to the flooring, painting, windows, exterior and interior painting, as well as improvements to the fire alarm system. That was made in all of the elementary schools. At Emperor, there were new administrative offices, as well as restrooms, and those similar improvements that have been made at other sites. At Emperor, there was 4 buildings were modernized, and there were a total of 8 classrooms, and as well as there were new restrooms added for students and staff, and new HVAC and ducting was put in place. At La Rosa, 2 classroom buildings were modernized, which made improvements to 12 classrooms. And like I said, most of these elementary schools were taken down to the stud, and they all also received new furniture, and the windows much brighter and according to the new standards. And as part of the COC, we've had a chance to go in and visit some of those schools, and they look very beautiful. At Longdon, the 2-story classroom building was modernized, which provided students with 20 modernized classrooms, as well as the kindergarten. and there was new parking improvement and student drop-off area improvement at that school. At Oak, the improvements were limited so far to the technology improvements as well as the resurfacing and resurfaced asphalt courts, as well as new exterior paint. And for these projects, the district also contributed some funds from its deferred maintenance to augment the bond funds, as well as there were some additional funds accessed through Prop 39 grants, which provided energy and efficiency at some of these school campuses. At Doug Sears, the old building was demolished, a new pre-manufactured administration and classroom building was added, and there was new landscaping at the entry of that school. There were major improvements at the high school with the construction of 3 new buildings that provided 32 new classrooms, 2 elevators, and additional restrooms for students and staff. In addition to that, there was a construction of new competition-sized pool, which we all visited the other day, as well as new concession room, new multi-purpose ball field, as well as a new softball field and scoreboard. On page 14 of the presentation, I have a summary of how the bond funds have been spent at various school campuses. The projects that have a 0 budget, the budget is equal to the final expenditures of that schools. And for the schools that are in the top part of the table, show the projects that are currently in the process of being completed, and those are expected to be completed by the end of this year. One of the things that I commend the district on is being prepared to go forward with the projects immediately after the bonds were approved. So beginning in 2013, when the first bond series was issued, the district proceeded with doing these projects and in the meantime applied for state funding. And state funding, under the current rules, first come, first served, so the sooner you file your application and do all of your due diligence, you're eligible to receive funding. For modernization, it's 60%, the state provides, and the district provides the 40% match. For new construction, it's 50-50. So the district filed applications for modernization and new construction beginning in 2013 so that it could be in line. In addition to that, the other advantage was the district benefited from lower construction costs and prevented inflation, so it was able to stretch its dollars and do more projects. The good news is that on page 15, I would like to share with you, the district is now eligible for $19.1 million of state grants. Most of those grants are under the current Proposition 51, which was approved by the voters a few years ago, and it's already been approved. So the district has done all of its due diligence, and it's in line for state funding, and it's waiting for the governor to issue the bonds. And once those bonds are issued based on where it is, and it's really moving up on that list, there are some additional steps that need to be met, fund release and so forth, and those funds could slowly come into the district, and those are now available to do additional projects. So even though I have highlighted the dollar amounts per campus, those are not limited to those school campuses because the bonds fronted those projects in its entirety, including the state share. So these are additional funds that could be used to complete additional projects. And we're hopefully expecting that the governor will be issuing bonds by the end of this year, and funds should start coming in. However, there is no guarantee until they're actually in the district's account. But we're very excited. I'm not going to go over the steps, but there are a lot of steps that need to be completed, and most of them have been completed. Once the funds come in, there are additional steps that will be taking place in order to secure those funds and also provide the due diligence regarding those completed projects. So the next steps, so the district has been very good stewards of the community by not only completing a number of projects and quickly, it has also been taken advantage of being in line for state funding, and now it's looking into taking advantage of the lower interest rates that are available, and my colleague Stephen Gall will give you a presentation regarding the opportunities that are available to provide the district with some additional funds so that more projects could be completed. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Thank you very much. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on back to our agenda, item number 11, the public comment on agendized and non-agendized items. I do have one request tonight from Mary Saxon, who is acting in her capacity as president of Temple City Council PTA. Mary?
Just as the president, not the whole council. I don't know if you said that or not. Okay, so good evening, Dr. Fricker, Board of Education members, cabinet members, constituents and stakeholders. Now, I've heard that term, constituents and stakeholders, I really don't know what that is, so. I think I know it's the parents and the staff and the teachers, for everybody. Okay, so during the summer, a few weeks before school started, I entered the snack bar on North Field in Hitchcock Stadium to ready it for the upcoming football soccer season. And yes, I said soccer because we are gonna open for soccer. So, which I think is a good thing. And maintenance was in the throes of constructing a new outside counter because the prior counter was in severe disrepair. So, by the way, the new outside counter is sturdy and it looks very nice. And, so without going into all the minute details, a soda machine hose sprung a leak and this black thick liquid streamed across the floor to behind the ice machine and seeped underneath the cupboard. So Mr. Lohman, the principal at Tcusd City High School, had the maintenance thoroughly clean it up, and I'm happy to say that upon Dr. Fricker's inspection, because she wanted to see like what it looked like, it was determined out with the old cupboard and counter and in with the new. So excited. So, due to the black thick liquid, let me say that again, I'm almost done, don't worry. The black thick liquid syrup seepage under the cupboard. Because I couldn't figure out why it just seemed like it was growing, and Dr. Fricker knew, I'm not explaining it right, but something about it expands with the heat or something and it comes up. So she's like, we need to fix that. So, it's beautiful, it's fantastic, I'm serious. They matched the countertop to the front countertop and it looks amazing, like everything matches. And an added bonus was the cupboard and counter space on the north side of the snack bar was also replaced. And I don't know if you guys have ever worked in there. There was a counter and cupboard, but there was no doors. Now there's doors. So I'm so happy and excited, and I'm thankful to you, Dr. Fricker, and to Mr. Lohman.
Thank you, Mary.
You're welcome.
Moving on to item 12, district updates. We're going to start first with business services. And Mary Ann, do you have anything to add to your presentation?
Just one quick item. As I mentioned to you at our last meeting, I will be taking over worrying about the crossing guards. So over the next 2 weeks, I'm scheduled to go to each site during drop-off or pickup to observe. I've asked the principals for feedback when the most congested times are, so I have a time for each site. And I'll bring you more feedback when I finish observing. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Mary Ann. Moving on to Ed Services, Dr. Joshua Porter. Josh, do you have anything to add?
Yes, I think I just got one more item myself. I know that dual immersion has been on the agenda for some time now. I just want to let you know that this is something that we are going to look into or working with. I do plan on working with our unions and our stakeholders on coming up with a plan and working through that, and hopefully proposing something with stakeholder feedback by the end of this year.
Great, thank you, Josh. And then moving on to personnel services, Dr. Monica Matovitz.
Again, still working on the Longden principal position, but I do want to take the time to thank the staff at Longden Elementary. I have been there trying to support the staff and the interim principal, Monica Lukesh, and I have never seen the staff band together so well to help each other out, and I just wanted to give them a shout out for that, all their effort on that. The second thing is we started our compensation study today with CRS, and today was a needs assessment. We will start moving forward with that, and the first item of business is taking a look at our job descriptions, making sure those are in order and up to date. We will provide updates to the union and to the leadership and to the board to gather input and just make sure we're communicating every step of the way. So that was the first day today, and I look forward to sharing out as we progress with that.
Great, thank you, Monica. Moving on to item 13, bargaining unit comments. We'll start first with TCEA. Ellen, nothing? No? CSEA 105, I don't see Robin or 823. Okay. That'll take us to student board member comments. Sam, what do you have first?
Good evening, everyone. Last week I went to the pool dedication. It was nice to see such a big project completed. Basically held its leadership development day for all the club presidents, secretaries, and treasurers last Saturday to inform them on club procedures. We also revealed the theme of this year's homecoming, which is "There's No Place Like Home," inspired by the Wizard of Oz. ASB is also ready to discuss the future date of the joint meeting with the board. And for student input, a lot of students were wondering whether it was possible to have more tables on campus, since the majority of them sit on the floor during lunch. And the robotics team was also wondering about the status of their budget approval for the upcoming year. And that's all for today. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Samuel. Okay, moving on now to board member comments, and we'll start first tonight with Dr. Michael Lynn. Mike?
Thank you, Board President Matt Smith, and good evening, everybody. I attended a whole bunch of different events. I enjoyed attending Emperor's Back to School Night and visiting the classrooms. I also attended the Los Angeles County School Trustees Association meeting with Matt Smith. I attended the State of the District presentation, and kudos to Dr. Fricker and her superintendent's cabinet for your wonderful presentation at that time and tonight. I also attended the high school's pool dedication following the State of the District presentations. And I also attended Cindy Young's Teacher of the Year luncheon hosted by the County Office of Education. And finally, I look forward to attending this Saturday's special board meeting. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Mike. And then we'll move on now to member Georgina Bell.
Thank you. I also attended Emperor's Back to School Night and the Back to School Night at the Dr. Doug Sears Learning Center. And I also attended the State of the District, and I'm hoping that's something we're going to do annually. I think it's real valuable for the community and the stakeholders to find out what's going on in the district. Following the State of the District, I went to the pool dedication, and I just cannot express what a thrill it is to see that beautiful new swimming pool. I am so happy for our students to have a state-of-the-art athletic facility. We've been lacking in that for many years now, and I think they have something now they can really be proud of, so it was a big thrill for me. Congratulations again to Cindy Young, who's the Temple City Unified School District Teacher of the Year. I attended her luncheon on Friday, and it's so well deserved, and I'm so happy for her. In case you haven't heard, the announcement of the musical for this year has been made. It's going to be Newsies, which I have not seen before, so I'm looking forward to seeing that. I also want to congratulate one of our Temple City High School students. You might have to help me with this, Samuel. Tcusd, who is one of the finalists for the Tournament of Roses Royal Court. So I believe she'll find out on Monday if she's been chosen. And lastly, I wanted to announce that the Sister Cities program is accepting applications for students to go to Australia next summer. So if you know of any students who are sophomores this year, please encourage them to apply. It's a great opportunity.
Great, thanks, Donna. I will go ahead and go next. Like most of my peers, I did attend the Emperor Back to School Night on the 12th, and I had a really nice time there, going around visiting all the classrooms and seeing all the people and excitement and whatnot. I also had an opportunity to attend the State of the District presentation last Wednesday, as well as the pool dedication, and I would echo Donna's comments in terms of walking into that pool for the first time and taking a look around. It was just very, very nice, beautiful facility. I had a chance also to attend the Los Angeles County Office of Education Teacher of the Year luncheon last Friday at the Hilton in Universal City. Very nice to see Cindy there with members of her family and the school teachers and whatnot, so that was great. Mike mentioned the LAPSTA meeting that we both attended on Monday. LAPSTA is it's an acronym for the Los Angeles County School Trustees Association. It's kind of like a county version of CSBA. They get together 3 or 4 times a year. They bring in speakers, and the topic of this dinner event was CTE. So learned a lot of good things about career technical education. Then looking forward to attending the special governance training this Saturday right here in this room, 8 o'clock. And also next Tuesday the 1st, the Kiwanis Club of Temple City is putting on a ice cream social for the new teachers and administrators in the district, and that will also be right here in this room. And then lastly, I'd like to thank the 2 individuals or organizations, as the case may be, that were identified in tonight's agenda, who donated $1,235.86. Thank you. That we'll move on to Member Nollenberg. Kim, what do you have?
I attended the back to school nights at the Doug Sears Learning Center, and I was kind of surprised to be able to go so quickly. It was only four classrooms, I think, 4 or 5. And then also I attended the State of the Union and the pool dedication. And the only thing I saw with the pool is something that we should look at as a board, I think, is the pool is got to be self-contained. So all the money that derives from the pool should go back to support the pool, and we should defer maintenance on the pool. We should do maintenance on the pool on a regular basis, which is one of the problems we have with the old pool. We didn't do that. And I also attended the school foundation. They have about $170,000 to give away in grants in the coming years. They give it to the teachers who in turn own the properties. And that's one of the problems still to be resolved by the school foundation, is whether they should give the money to the schools or to the district. And who they give the money to. Because whoever they give the money to is the person who in a sense receives the gifts. And they can take the gifts with them.
That's not true. Not true.
Huh?
It's not true, Ken. I just placed my request for one today, and it says right on the piece of the paperwork that although it goes to the teacher, the board is made for the teacher's project. Everything that's purchased belongs to the school district.
Yeah. Okay. And that's it.
Okay, great, thank you, Kim. And then the last but not least, Member Espinoza.
So I attended the back to school night at Emperor and Doug Sears, and I was really happy. Ms. Shannon Finley, supervising teacher at Doug Sears for the Independent Studies program, gave me an overview of that program, which I had no knowledge about. So I was really thankful to her for giving me the time and explaining it, and it was really great to see that, for kids that are highly motivated and just do better in an online or self-study environment, that we have options for those kids. I am very excited about Newsies, and I know the kids are going to work hard over the next several months. There's a lot of buzz among the students, and I'm just excited to see them work really hard and deliver something that's going to amaze all of us. And I'm excited to help out in any way I can, and so that's exciting. I also want to thank the Rampage. They invited me to be interviewed for their newsletter, and I just want to thank the staff for the opportunity. And I hope my insights about what I thought it was to be a board member was helpful to the students and anybody who subscribes to the Rampage. I also went to the pool dedication. And I think in kind of response to something you said about that, I understood from Marianne that we have the maintenance is being done in-house, and all the services are being handled in-house, outsourcing any of that. So that was great to hear, because it was something that was done previously with the old pool, right? Okay. So good, great event. I actually thought maybe more people would attend, and so, you know, my final thought is really just, you know, we want to encourage our families and community members to be engaged and be aware of what's going on. We want to hear from you in whatever way is comfortable for you to communicate with the district and with the board members. So, you know, I would encourage that because we can't do this alone. We have to hear what our constituents want and feel is important so that we can make, you know, keep that in mind while we make decisions. So I just encourage people to be engaged. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Melissa. And after that, we will move on to the superintendent's comments. Dr. Kimberly Fricker.
Thank you so much. I just do want to honor Cindy at the Teacher of the Year award ceremony. It was very nice getting to know her a little bit better and her family, and it was a great event. So congratulations. When you're sitting in a room of 60 of the most prestigious colleagues, I mean that's an honor that teachers deserve to have. So. Well done. Special board meeting is Saturday, the 28th, beginning at 8 o'clock. And it is on our website. There's a banner on our website just advertising that. So if you click on that banner, it will take you right to the agenda. It's a shortcut link there. So thank you, Andy, for that. Attending all the back to school nights were a thrill. They were all kind of a little bit different, but you got to see the signature flavor of the schools and the culture and the climate. So that was really nice to see, as well as getting to interact with parents and you know, students, and definitely our teaching staff they were in classrooms on point, and they were in charge. Like you just had to wave in, and that was about it, because they were doing what they do best, and the parents were thrilled at the back to school night. So happy to see happy smiling faces there. Thank you to the Kiwanis for sponsoring the ice cream social that is coming up on October 1st. I just want to thank Marie and her staff for just helping put that all together and make sure that that's a good event for all of our new staff, and to celebrate them and welcome them on board to our district. I attended the PTA and the foundation meetings last week, so thank you, Mary. She invited me to sit at the big seats, and so that was a thrill. Got to see and hear all of the inner workings of the PTA and the foundation, so I'm looking forward to working with them throughout the course of our new year together. Pool dedication, I think, was well done. It's nice to see the pool. All my kids are water polo players and swimmers, so a pool is near and dear to my heart. So it was nice to see that, but I want to more importantly thank Marianne and her team and Marisol and Food Services because they really put the event together, and they provided all the refreshments for everyone, and they did a really, really great job. And then finally, I just want to say thank you to my team for putting together the State of the District. There's a lot of prep and preparation, planning and preparation that went into just putting the State of the District together, noting the accomplishments of past administrations and the work of past teachers and students and various staff members across the district, and the accomplishments that they had were really an honor to kind of note at the beginning of that, and then end it with the focus on the facilities and the improvements that have been happening over the past years. I think we have come a long way. We have a long way to go. We're excited to look at what funds we have remaining for facilities and what projects we can really jumpstart here in the next coming years. So that's exciting as well.
Great, thank you, Kim. With that, we are going to move on to the discussion portion of our agenda. Just one item tonight with regard to business and some information about how we can get some free money by refinancing districts. You must be Steve Will.
Good evening, board members, superintendent, and cabinet. My name is Stephen Gall, and I'm with California Financial Services. More importantly, though, as it relates to Temple City Unified School District, I am the district's municipal financial advisor. In that role, what we do is we look for opportunities in the municipal bond market for the district to take advantage of. We provide you information through education to empower you to make the right decision. And then as you make the decision, we help you with the implementation of that. So what I'm going to do this evening is share a little bit of information with you about an opportunity and something that we hope to bring back to you in just a few short weeks for board action. As I share the information, there may be some of this information that you've heard before, which is great, and some of this information that you may be hearing for the first time. I encourage all of my clients to be open to ask questions. My wife is a second grade teacher, and she subscribes to the adage of knows the only dumb question is the one that's not asked, and I share that feeling with her.
We'll cycle through.
Okay, perfect, thank you. Wonderful. So a little bit of this is a recap of what Tarana mentioned, which is in 2012, the voters within the school district boundaries approved Measure S with an affirmative or a yes vote of 64.35%. Under Measure S, the voters approved the school district issuing up to $28.8 million bonds that would be repaid through the levy and collection of property taxes within the district to fund priority school projects. The maximum level of taxation that can be used for this purpose under the Measure S authorization is $60 per 100,000. So as an example, if somebody's home was, they purchased a home this year for $200,000, their maximum tax would be $120 a year for this particular measure in total. Currently, the district has issued about a little bit less than 2/3 of the authorization, and there's approximately $55 million that are remaining. This remaining authorization can only be issued to the extent that the total payment with all the existing debt plus any new debt doesn't exceed the tax rate threshold. And in this case, as Tarana mentioned, though we can go up to a maximum of $60, the district has established a lower tax rate objective of $58.80. On this next, to give you a better idea of this concept, what you're seeing here in this slide is a graphical representation of the debt service profile and the total tax rate objective from the 2017 bond issue, which was the last time we issued bonds for Measure S. As you can see here on this slide, as you can see here on this side, what we have in the gray bars is the debt service or the annual payments for the Series A bonds. And then on top of those are the series of annual payments for the Series B bonds in orange there. The green line is the projected revenue that can be generated by the district's tax rate objective. As you can see here, when we issued the Series B bonds, we were limited by the amount of bonds that could be issued underneath that green line. So in other words, the district generated just as much funds for projects in 2017 as possible under the constraint of the existing tax rate objective. This is, at the end of the day, as we talk about Measure S and accessing incremental funding from that tool, this is going to be kind of the picture that we have in our head. This is always how the math works. There's a line at the top that represents the total amount of taxes that can be levied underneath the measure, and though we may have remaining authorization, it can only be accessed to the extent that we can pay for it underneath that green line. Next slide, please. So I'm here to share with you a few opportunities. Number one, based on the current interest rate environment, there is a current opportunity for the district to refinance a portion of the district's outstanding election 2012 Series A bonds. So this is the series of bonds that were issued initially after the measure was passed, in fact issued in 2013. Based on current interest rates, we estimate that the total debt service reduction over the spread over the term of the outstanding bonds is approximately $2.2 million, which equates to about $96,000 per year each and every year. Additionally, assisted by slightly higher assessed valuation growth over the last 3 years, the district also has the opportunity at the same time we're doing the refinancing to also access another $4 to $6 million of additional project funding for Measure S projects. So in the next couple of slides, I'm going to drill down just a little bit on those bottom line concepts. Number one, a little bit about the current interest rate environment. What you see here on this chart is the 10-year Treasury rate. So these are bonds that are issued by the federal government with a duration or a repayment period of 10 years. This is not the interest rate that the district necessarily borrows at. It is, however, kind of a tool that we use in the industry as a proxy for the general direction and level of interest rates. As you can see here, interest rates in general for municipal bond issuers are at historically low rates and have continued with some volatility, but at fairly low rates for a period of time. In addition to what you're seeing here, what you don't see is, in addition to rates on a whole being very low, the difference, or what we call the spread, the difference between the interest that we have to pay an investor on our bonds, the Simple City, versus what the U.S. government has to pay is also very narrow. So interest rates are low, and the spread between the lowest interest rate and what we have to pay is narrow. So all in all, for both the new issuance of bonds under Measure S as well as the refinancing, interest rates are really, if not at the lowest they've ever been, very, very close. So it's a good time to consider. How low are they? On this slide, what you're seeing is a depiction. The orange dots are the interest rates on the district's current outstanding Series A bonds that have been identified for the refinancing. So as you look here at the dots, you'll see the labels on there. You'll see 5.64%, 5.89%, 6.1%, and then a number of 5%. The blue bars underneath there are the market taxable interest rate, interest rates on the taxable market as of 9/6/2019. So you see, going from left to right, you started at 2.4%, and then at the very highest in 2043, you get to 3.46%. Refinancing general obligation bonds, like the ones that we're considering for Temple City, is very similar to refinancing your mortgage. When interest rates are lower than your existing mortgage rate, you can save money, and as long as that difference there, the gap between those orange dots and the blue dots, are large enough to generate enough savings to pay any costs associated with the refinancing itself, it makes sense to move forward. Next slide, please. In addition to that, when the district issued their bonds in 2017, if you remember that slide where we had the green line, the way we established that green line is we took the district's existing assessed value and we assumed that that assessed value would grow by 4.5% on a go-forward basis. In addition to being able to lower the debt service payments or the annual payments on the existing debt through the refinancing, the district has also experienced slightly higher assessed valuation growth over the last 3 years. We had projected 4.5%. We've actually averaged 5.64% assessed valuation growth. So what we're seeing here is now, through a refinancing of some of the existing Series A, we can lower those bars that you saw on the first slide. And because we've seen slightly higher growth rates over the last 3 years, that green line goes up. So if you flip to the next slide, this is kind of a very rudimentary summary of the opportunity. As you can see here on the bottom, we have the Series B. In orange is the Series B bonds. In yellow is the remaining Series A bonds. These are a portion of the Series A bonds that are not being refinanced. The gray bar would be the refinancing bonds, the bonds issued just for the purposes of reducing the outstanding debt service. And you can see here what's created is a gap between the green line, which is your tax rate objective, and the stack of the existing debt bonds. What we then do is we have the opportunity to come in and issue another series of bonds, which is shown here in blue, to capture additional funding. Again, this is the math, as I explained in the first chart, this is really the math we're always dealing with Measure S. The green bar is your tax rate objective of $58.80. The bars below are the debt service payments on the existing and planned debt issuance. Here in the top left-hand corner I've summarized, based on the current market conditions, how much money would be saved with the refinancing bonds, and I want to walk you through it very briefly. If somebody called me today on the phone and said, you can refinance your mortgage and I can save you $1 a month, I would say, well, that's nice that you can refinance my mortgage to save me $1 a month, but it's not really worth the trouble. In my mind, I always, and I think everyone has in their mind, a threshold by which we would say, okay, that would make sense to go forward. In our business, how we measure that, or what the kind of the rule of thumb is we look at, we take the total amount that can be saved over the period, which is the 2.2 million, and then we make an adjustment to that amount and bring it back and discount it towards present day. So that 2.2 million is being saved over the entire duration of the existing bonds. If we had that $2.2 million today, the relative buying power of that 2.2 is 1.5 million, what we call the present value. What that allows us to do is compare two refinancings, one that may be refinancing a 30-year bond versus refinancing a 15-year bond, and kind of create kind of an apples-to-apples comparison. So in Temple City's case, based on the current market, we're looking at about $1.5 million worth of present value savings. And then we compare that to, as a percentage, the amount of bonds that we're refinancing. And we get this bond number here, which is 8.766%. The rule of thumb in the industry is that when we do a refinancing of any type of municipal bonds, we want to be at 3% savings or above. So as you can see here, not only is the district achieving significant, what we would call nominal savings and present value savings, based on the current interest rate environment, we're also well in excess of what the kind of the rule of thumb for industry standard would be, which is 3%. On the right-hand side in this box, I show you, based on the current interest rate environment and how we've kind of put the debt, aligned the debt here against the objective line. We think that if interest rates hold, we could generate up to about $6 million worth of new money, or money to apply to projects. Now, all of this is preliminary and subject to change based on interest rates. On a day-to-day basis, interest rates in our market change, and they change for a couple different reasons. One reason you and I are very aware of, and we see every day, we turn on the news and they say, well, we're going to make a trade deal with China, or we're not going to make a trade deal with China, or we're going to do this thing, or we're going to do that thing, and interest rates fluctuate. The other thing that happens that we don't see, that we're subject to, is just simple supply and demand. A lot of people want to buy bonds, our interest rates go down. Less people want to buy bonds, our interest rates go up, so forth and so on. What we try to do as we move forward with giving you estimates like in this, is we've tried to put a little bit of cushion on the interest rates to lessen the opportunity that we come back with something lower. But the important thing here is when we identify opportunities like this, is we try to move as quickly as possible to what we call lock in the savings or complete the transaction. Next slide, please. So what we have here is we have a timeline. At the top, you'll see here the week of September 2nd is when we communicated, met with the district staff, district management, and communicated the opportunity, and worked with the district staff to send out a small piece of information to the board regarding the opportunity. Starting on September 9th, our team started to put together the paperwork that would be necessary to execute the transaction to the extent the district wanted to continue to move forward. All of the costs associated with the professionals for these types of bond issuances, specifically on the refinancing, are all contingent upon the completion of the refinancing. So if we start on September 9th, we start doing the bond paperwork and interest rates go up, and we have to abandon the refinancing, there's no cost to the district. So we've started the process of putting the documents together with the goal of aligning the district to approve the bond issuance as early as October 23rd, which then would allow the district to market the bonds and lock in savings the week of November 11th. There's nothing extraordinarily magical about the week of November 11th. However, what it allows the district to do is take advantage of a bond market that has what we call full participation. As we get into Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year's, People who buy bonds for a living are just like you and me. They take vacation, take the long leave for Thanksgiving. They go to the in-laws for, the week before Christmas. They do those types of things. If the best time to be in the market between now and the end of the year is before the Thanksgiving holiday, and we've tried to align the schedule to make this happen. So that's the end of my presentation. I do have just a slide that shows assumptions and those types of things, some disclosure stuff. We are assuming, based on the analysis assumes that we would close the transaction based on the schedule. The interest rates would be somewhat comparable to what we've done the calculation on. And that the district, most importantly, that the district would maintain its current rating of AA3 and AA minus. We don't see an issue with any of these bullet points coming to fruition, but we do have an obligation to disclose those assumptions to you as we present you with numbers.
Great, thank you, Stephen. Does anybody have any questions? Don?
Couple, I'll be your first dumb question.
All right.
How is the 5880 rate arrived at?
So, so starting at the top, starting at the $60, the $60 is a statutory limit. The district approved their general obligation bonds under the provisions of Prop 39. And what Prop 39 allows school districts within the state of California to do is they allow you to pass general obligation bond measures like Measure S at a 55% voter threshold. Everyone else has to go to a 2/3 plus 1 vote. So that sets your maximum at 60. At some point, the district staff and board, when they went forward with Measure S, decided to make a commitment to the community that though they could go up to $60 per 100,000 with the authorization, that they would hold the amount at $58.80. I was not working with the district on the measure in 2012, so I'm not sure how exactly, why is it $58.80 versus $59 or $58.50. I just know that it was a number that was a commitment made to the community and that we've held it constant for each of the issuances as well as all the bond planning going forward.
Okay. And my other question is, so this is for the Series A bonds. How about the Series B? Can they be refinanced also?
Great question. The Series B bonds are not we review all of that on your behalf. The way that these opportunities come to be is we, on an annual basis, as interest rates move and as markets change, we continue to run numbers internally to look at where there's opportunities. The Series B bonds, there is not currently an opportunity to do refinancing, not because their interest rates are so low, but it's mainly because the time between, whenever we issue bonds, we make a number of promises to the bondholders. Starting with the concept that we're going to pay you interest over time when we give you your money back. Also, there's other promises we make, however. And one of those big promises is we tell them that we can't repay the loan until a certain period of time lapses. And generally, it's 10 years. So in 2017, we made the standard 10-year pledge to the bondholders that we would not call or repay the bonds for that 10-year period. So they would not be able to be repurchased from the bondholders until 2027. Because that distance is, because there's so much time between today and 2027, where we have to escrow the funds and hold them at the bank, it just doesn't make any sense. All of the savings gets burnt off by just paying the interest, incremental interest until 2027.
So in the future, that might be a possibility.
Correct. So what we will do is we get closer, once we get within a few, 3 years of that date, we'll start running numbers on the Series B as well, envisioning that the opportunity would look very similar at that time, the opportunity to lower the Series B debt service and then add additional bonds on top of that to the extent that the district hasn't completely issued all of the Measure S authorization. That's a good question.
Thank you.
Stephen, I also have 2 questions. So since we're on that slide, that last statement, you have the words final costs. So is there so your organization will charge a percentage fee, or is it a fixed set of fees for your services?
So all of the costs, there are a number of costs associated with issuing municipal bonds. The fee for my firm is one of the municipal financial advisory fee, and we have a contract with the district that is based on a per issuance basis. You also have a number of attorneys that work on the project as well, which are all per issuance costs. And then on a percentage basis of the bonds, we do engage a investment bank that helps the district place the bonds directly with investors, and they're the only ones that work on a percentage basis. So for us, the size of the bond doesn't change our compensation, neither does it for your attorney. The only person who it changes it, the compensation would be for the underwriter, which is the investment bank. The reason that it changes for the investment bank, may or may not be interested, but I'll share, is part of the fee that the investment bank, that we pay the investment bank, is actually a sales fee that we pay to individual bond salespeople. So when we go to issue the bonds, say you issue $5 million worth of bonds, it's not one investor buying them. It could be 100, it could be 200 investors. Somewhere out there in investment banking land, there's gentlemen like you and I on the phone with their clients selling them bonds. And part of that fee that we pay the investment bank is to compensate that individual for selling our bonds instead of selling, a neighboring bond and those types of things.
So to piggyback on my first question, you could go to slide number 7 of page 7.
Steve, these are net of the closing costs.
The present value, no, the other one, the next one. Next slide.
This
Yeah.
Yes, the present value savings, so that $1.5 million, is that after all the fees or before the fees?
It's after all the fees associated with the transaction. So any information that we present to you, both the nominal savings, present value as a percentage, in addition to the new project funding, is all net of all fees associated with the transaction.
Got it. And now my second question.
Okay.
That green line
Yes.
is based on it's a yield curve, it's a interest. What is the interest that we're using here?
So the green line isn't, in this instance, it's not the yield curve. The green line is the revenue line. So this is the amount of revenue in any given year based on a 4.5% increase in the assessed value. We're assuming that the assessed value within the district will grow by 4.5% per year, which is in line with historical average and slightly below what we've seen over the last 3 years. It's also the same assumption we've used on each one of your issuances. The interest rates on the bonds that we're looking at, if on the refinancing bonds, the average interest rate, true interest costs on the refinancing bonds, the average is 3.43%, and the total maturity is a 23-year maturity. 3.43. On the new money transaction, which is the new money transaction, the true interest cost is 3.34%.
How many years? How many?
For which one? For the new money, it's a 28-year term. 28-year term. You can see.
When we talk about present value, did we use the 4.5% assessed value rate or the interest rate 3.43%?
So for the present value calculation, I'll do it here. So the present value is based on the arbitrage yield on the refinancing bonds, so which is different than the number I gave you. The arbitrage yield on the refinancing bonds is 3.391%. So that is the factor that we utilize to present value it back to today's dollars.
Is it just the yield interest rate, right? The bond yield?
Yeah, so when we look at interest, when we assign a percentage, what's the interest cost? There's a couple different ways to look at it. If you strip everything down and you just say what is the actual interest component of the financing, we call it the yield, or sometimes it's referred to as the arbitrage yield. That's the 3.391%, and that's what it would be used. When the prior number I gave you is called the true interest cost. It includes both the interest, the effect of the interest on the loan itself, as well as associates costs associated with the cost of issuance, so these other numbers, and that's why it's slightly higher at 3.4357. But for the net present value, we use the arbitrage yield. Again, the purpose of doing the net present value as a percentage of savings is really an attempt by our market to create an apples to apples comparison over a number of, so we can pull comparisons from bond issue refinancings that have been done over the last 5 years. Each one of them are being calculated and compared with the same kind of measurement techniques.
So I may have missed this, but what was the estimated cost of the refi?
So the refinancing, total cost of issuance for the refinancing, I didn't share. But so we look at the cost in two components. Right now for the refinancing, we're estimating the total cost of issuance, and we'll be refining this over the next couple of weeks, is $250,000. And the total underwriter's discount is approximately $120,000. So it's $370,000 for underwriter's discount, which is the investment bank, the fee to have them sell the bonds, and then $250,000, which is the professionals involved, my fee, as well as various attorneys' fees, escrow banks, those types of things. And again, what this is a kind of a rounded off approximation. We'll be putting all that detail together between now and when we conclude the transaction.
I have one more question.
Okay.
There was an interest chart on page 4.
Yes.
So, we skip that. So next page. Yes.
That-
So
yes.
Series A was issued in 2013.
Correct.
So when we look at 2013, but this is the 10-year treasury rate.
Correct.
Not the arbitrage rate.
Correct.
So 2013, looking at that, we kind of bottomed out in 2013 where we're hitting right now.
Yeah.
So, but we're talking about two different interest rates. This is 10-year treasury, whereas the arbitrage is a different rate.
Correct.
Okay, got it.
Correct. The other thing that you may notice here is, and I think you're picking up on it, it's really good, is when we look at where we issued bonds, we issued in 2013, we're here. And then now we're here doing our refinancing, and look at where the relative rates are. And if this is an approximation for our market, are we much lower? We're not really, right? It's fairly close. We have, there are a couple things that happen. Number one, it's a shorter loan now. So even though we're in the general kind of same scale of interest rates, it's a shorter loan. Number two, remember I told you that spread between this rate and our rate is really compressed because there's just a lot of people who are looking to buy municipal bonds right now. So that's compressed. And the third thing, which is a little more wonky, is when we sell bonds, sometimes we sell $1 worth of bonds and somebody buys it for $1.50. So they pay us more than what the face value is. And what that means is that the coupon rate or the stated interest rate that we're refinancing now is higher than what we actually was the actual cost of the loan when we sold the bonds. So we may have gotten a 2% interest rate, but that investor wanted a 5% coupon. So they paid us more than $1 for the bonds. But then now when we do the refinancing, even though we're at similar rates, we're refinancing not a 2% bond, we're refinancing a 5 or 5.5% bond. So a little wonkier, but those are kind of the three things that as you look at this chart in relation to the next chart, can you flip it? And then you start looking at these, that's why these rates are significantly higher, even in what would be overall market, pretty close to where we were back in 2013 when we issued the initial bonds. Credit rating of the district hasn't changed. So those are the components that have changed.
Ken, your question?
Yes. You didn't, on page 2, the green line doesn't include anything about possible recessions within the next 2 to 3 years. Does it, or does it?
So what the green line here assumes is that the district would experience an average growth rate of 4.5%.
That's property itself.
Assessed valuation, correct. So what that means is that there will be years likely that you'll be over 4.5 and then years likely that you'll be under. We actually just had this discussion with Toronto on our drive down or drive up today, is in a community like Temple City, it's a built-out community with a very established and diverse tax base. So there's not a lot of homes that, there's no 100 acres that's going to be developed with 1,500 new homes and those types of things. And for that reason, your assessed value is never going to grow at 10 or 15 or 20%. That's kind of the downside. The upside, though, is it's never going to back up 10% or 20% like we saw in some communities in the Inland Empire. So we see that over your historical, we felt that 4.5% is right around where the district should be to make sure that as we issue debt, that we're never exceeding that tax rate objective. If we issue the debt today and tomorrow we experienced decrease in assessed value or slightly slower, it would mean that the resulting tax rate projection for some period of time would be potentially slightly over the $58.80. But we feel that both, based on what we see today going forward, as well as we see today in the rearview mirror, 4.5 is a solid estimate for your community. Every community is different. Every community is different.
Has the district office in the past or in the future made any commitments to the public that need to be disclosed? In a sense, the district office said we would only charge 58.80. That's
Correct.
one. But is there any other ones
No,
that you know of?
not that I know of. No, now, as we look forward to generating additional Measure S proceeds, the utilization of the Measure S proceeds will fall in line with the balance of the program. The district staff and planning group is well aware of the kind of the list of authorized projects. But other than that, that's really all that would be remaining. The district has significant remaining authorization, so the ability to issue up to approximately another $55 million. So issuing another, 6, 7 million, 8 million is well within that constraint without doing any additional disclosure or seeking any additional approval for the.
So we would pick up another $6 million.
That is the plan.
And how long would we have, or would the public have to pay it back?
So as I mentioned before, the $6 million, the component of the financing that would be the new money component, or the portion that generates additional proceeds, the total repayment term on that is 28 years.
Okay. All right, Stephen, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
All right, we are now moving on to the action portion of our agenda. First category is administration. Item 19, which calls for a motion to adopt resolution 1920-04, which is actually sort of 3 resolutions in one, to proclaim and observe the month of October 2019 as Character Education Month. Same thing with regard to the month of the young adolescent. And then for the week of October 23rd through 31, 2019 is Red Ribbon Week. We have a motion to approve in a second, please.
Motion.
Second.
I didn't hear who did what. Melissa, I didn't hear Melissa. Okay, so we have a motion from Member Espinoza and a second from Member Lynch. Okay, comments or questions? This resolution is a roll call vote. Member Nolenberg?
Yes.
Member Lynn?
Yes.
Member Georgino?
Yes.
Member Espinoza?
Yes.
And I'm a yes as well, so carries 5-0. Moving on to item 20, calls for a motion to adopt resolution 1920-05, proclaiming the week of October 13 through 19, 2019 as the week of the school administrator. I have a motion and a second to approve, please.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, a motion from Member Dolenberg, second from Member Georgino. Comments or questions on this item? No? Okay, I will also go ahead and call for the vote. It's a roll call as well. Member Dolenberg?
Yes.
Member Lynn?
Yes.
Member Georgino?
Yes.
Member Espinoza?
Yes.
And I'm a yes as well, so that also carries 5-0. Moving on to the category of business services, item 21 calls for a motion to approve the 2019-20 Reserve for Economic Uncertainties. May I have a motion and a second, please?
I'll make the motion.
A second, okay, so we have a motion from member Lynn, a second from member Smith. Any comments or questions? Just for the audience's benefit, this is something we included in our meeting last week when we did a public hearing. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and call for the vote. Member Nolenberg,
Yes.
member Lynn,
Yes.
member Georgino,
Yes.
member Espinoza,
Yes.
and I'm a yes as well, so that carries 5-0. Moving on to item 22, which calls for a motion to adopt Resolution 1920-06, which is adopting the GAN limit for 2018-19 and 1920 fiscal years. A motion to approve in a second, please.
I'll move.
Second.
And motion from member Georgino and a second from member Lynn. Comments or questions on this? We also had a public hearing on this last meeting.
I have a question.
Please.
So, I just wanted to understand, is the reason that we adopt the GAN limit for 2018-19 because it's based on the actuals?
That's exactly right.
Okay.
Yes.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, I will go ahead and call for the vote. Member Nolenberg,
Yes.
member Lynn,
Yes.
member Georgino,
Yes.
member Espinoza,
Yes.
and I'm a yes as well, so that also carries 5-0. Moving on to item 23, calls for a motion to approve the carryover of the 2018 or 2019 ending fund balances and remaining grant award balances to the fiscal year we're currently in, which is 2019-20. May I have a motion? A second, please.
I'll make the motion.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, I'll second.
I heard the motion from member Lynn and the second from member Nolenberg. Any comments or questions on this?
I have a question.
Please.
So, I believe this document that we have here breaks down how much carryover each school gets and where all the monies are going. So how does one find out what the schools did with the money? Or do, when they use it, what they're gonna use it for? Is there some reporting that comes to the board to let us know, or to the community, or something?
So each site develops a school site plan, and within that school site plan, they define how they'll spend the monies that are for their site. I'm not sure about
Is
what
it
to take the rest.
available to the public to know what the money is used for?
We wouldn't have to determine, do we want to report out are you looking for the exact expenditures for like professional development, purchasing equipment, materials, supplies?
Yeah, mostly the unrestricted money. I just want to know because, like, for example, the high school has some carryover of like 67,000, Oak has 50. I just want to know what they're going to do with that money.
What they're gonna do with it would come through the school site plan would be the plan with what they're doing moving forward. That would then be approved by the school site council. And then those would be then reported to the board, and then we would approve the school site plans, kind of later in the beginning of next year. If we're looking for a printout as to what their expenditures were over the previous year, expenditures should be approved through the board. They go through our office. If it's within the LCFF funding or restricted fund or categoricals, then we monitor those directly and closely, or the school site council would oversee some of those as well. But if you're looking for specific expenditures, we'd have to run a report of past history.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, historical, I'd just
Yeah.
be curious if it's available and it's not too much trouble.
Oh, I'm not sure what we'll look at that, see what we can report out. Absolutely.
All right, any other comments or questions?
Oh, I was just wondering, what are flyer fees?
So some community groups pass out flyers to the school sites, and then if they do that, we charge them a nominal fee, and that sits on the superintendent's budget for various expenses that she might have.
Oh, okay.
Ken, go ahead.
Just one question is, how much of this can be used for salaries? Any of it? The amount of money that we carry over, can any of it be used for salaries?
It's a kind of a complicated question you're asking, so it depends on the resource. If it's a restricted resource, some percentage of it is available for salaries. If it's an unrestricted resource, then most of it would be available. These are funds that were given to the individual departments last year that they did not spend. So they saved it, they have something else they want to do with it this year.
And it's largely one time in that case.
Right. It's not ongoing revenue, it's money they've saved from last year to
So
do.
it's like one-time fund.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and call for the vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, the motion carries 5-0. Moving on to item 24, calls for a motion to approve change order number 5 to Fast Track Construction Corporation for the Temple City High School Phase 1B project in the amount of $607,857 and change. We have a motion and a second to approve, please.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
So we have a motion from member Georgino and a second from member Espinosa. Comments or questions?
Yeah, most of these changes were based upon surprises when we started the work, right? They weren't foreseen, none of them were foreseen.
Let me speak to that.
Please.
Yeah, so I'm a new face to you guys. My name is Spencer with New Construction Management. I've been tasked to close out the high school project and to fast track the completion of the Cloverleaf and the Rosa project, which is why I'm here today, to close out some of the open change order items. And to answer your question regarding, were any of these foreseen? No. All these items were either district requested changes or they were unforeseen conditions. For instance, a lot of the items had to do with underground utilities that we obviously can't plan for when we're designing the project. The architect's not able to tell exact locations of certain underground utilities, whether it's water or sewer, which some of the issues that we had out there that you see here on the breakdown were underground utility connection issues that we came across. In addition to that, a big item here is at the high school, there was a water main break while we were doing construction. It was unrelated to the construction project, but because we're out there, it was an emergency repair that was done. That we had our contractor perform that work to get it done right away. So part of that was, if you remember, bringing out temporary restrooms out to the site to fix that issue, which is included in the scope of work. So yes, they are all unforeseen. Documented items at the time of it.
All right, any other comments or questions? Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and call for the vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, oops, I'm an aye, well, that's 5-0, sorry. Okay, moving on to item 25, which calls for a motion to approve change order 1 to Miller Construction for the Cloverleaf and La Rosa School Modernization Phase 2 projects in the amount of $376,252 and change. I have a motion and a second to approve, please.
I'd like to make the motion.
Okay, so we have a motion from member Lynn, a second from member Georgino. Any comments or questions on item 25?
Can you describe the change order, please?
Yeah, so on the breakdown, you'll see there's two, it's broken up into two charts to deviate the money between the two schools. And the large portion of those dollar amounts that you see there, at the very beginning of the project, to expedite the project, it was actually bid before back check comments from the Division of State Architects. And during that time frame, the project was bid, and the Division of State Architects required some substantial structural upgrades, specifically at La Rosa, which was the major portion of that, and a little bit at Cloverleaf as well. And then also, so when the Division of State Architects finally approved the drawings, those changes that were required by Division of State Architects were incorporated as a change order that you see here to expedite the project to move it forward, or else we would have bid the project approximately 4 to 6 months after the bid date that was originally done. So this is costs that would have been in the original base bid of the project, and they were accounted for in the original budgets to the projects. In addition to that item, you see that there were some termite damage that was found out there when demolition took place, along with some minor electrical changes, and then over at Cloverleaf, that they call the Blue Room, there was it's kind of an interesting story. When they took out the wall, there was no footing or no slab under there. The wall itself in that room was used, or just pavers on dirt, and that's that $22,000 that you see there at Cloverleaf.
Any other comments or questions? All right, I'll go ahead and call for the vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. With that, we are on to the consent portion of our agenda, and this includes routine items approved by one motion and one vote unless a member of the board or audience requests that any item be reviewed and voted upon separately. Before I ask for the motion in a second, I would like to include item 33 in that motion second, but I'm going to pull that for a separate vote. So we have a motion and a second to approve consent agenda. 33.
Yeah, I'll make the motion.
Second.
We have a motion from member Georgino and a second from member Lynn. This is for all the items except 33. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, the motion carries 5-0. And then now I'm going to call for the motion on item 33. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, and I'm an abstention, so it's 4-0 and 1.
You don't need a second motion on that one?
It was included in the consent, the entire consent agenda. Okay. Now with that, we are on to board comments and future agenda items. Anybody want to make a comment or?
I do. For the next agenda, I would like to understand what the financial support that's available to give to defray the cost of the use of the Mission Playhouse. I know we use that playhouse for 3 events a year, I think, and it's one of our most cherished traditions, so I just want to know what we, as a district, can do to provide financial support for that.
So are you looking for a presentation or are you just looking for information?
I'd like information.
All right, any other comments or questions?
Yes, I would like to make a request to see if we could have the SELPA director maybe present. If not, then I know Dr. Fricker is a voting board member on the SELPA. Maybe provide some information to our school board about how our district, being a smaller district within the 13 school district SELPA, how we get our allocations from AB 602 and IDEA funding. I think the public may or may not know how we're funded in special education and how IDEA promises 40%, but we get less than 10%. Maybe more information on that, which ties into our budget.
Right.
Thank you. And so in that case, you're looking for a presentation. Okay.
Can I ask the difference between asking for information and asking for a presentation? Is it, if I'm asking for information, is it not going to be on the agenda? Or it would be?
If you're asking for information, I'm assuming that's outside the board meeting, you're looking for that information.
Oh, no, I want a presentation because I would like it on the agenda.
Anything else anybody has? No? Okay, with that, I'm going to go ahead and call for a motion to adjourn.
We did this additional.
Oh, thank you so much. So, another exciting meeting. We have the last chance for anybody who wants to come up and make a public comment or agendize or non-agendized items. I see one, Jerry Jambesi.
Sure. Good evening, board members. Jerry Jambesi, 9136 Los Tunas. I have to admit that almost all of this bond stuff went over my head. I mean, it's too much to handle. But I know one thing. I voted for it. And when I get my tax bill every year at my store and at my home, I'm happy to pay it because I know that it's doing good. But the one thing that I really like is that Dr. Lynn has experience from Wall Street. And he's keeping track of this stuff because I can just see the wheels going around in his head during this presentation. So, thank you.
Very nice, thank you, Jerry. Okay, with that, I'm going to go ahead and call for a motion and a second to adjourn, please.
Second.
Okay, motion from member Georgino, second from member Lynn. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, meeting is adjourned 5-0. Thank you.